Good afternoon and welcome to this year's Stockholm School of Economics annual homecoming celebration. My name is Sylvia Kakembo. I'm a fellow SSE alum and I will be your moderator this afternoon. So I will be guiding you through a program full of interesting speakers, lively performances and special updates. Normally, you would find me at Arena Opinion, a PR and communications firm working with non-profit organizations and businesses who wish to impact society. But today, I'm very glad to be with you. So this year's homecoming celebration is set up in a different fashion. Online. So we're very excited about this since it makes it possible for you to participate from wherever you might find yourself on the globe. So we have alumni tuning in, stretching from Australia to Brazil. And an extra shout out to all of you who are attending homecoming for the very first time. So thank you for registering and thank you also for your donations. So wherever you find yourself in the world, you can actively take part in this afternoon's session by being active in the chat. So please feel free to introduce yourselves and your location in the chat. And we also encourage you to use the Q&A form on the website to communicate with us here in the studio. And you will find it if you scroll down under the frame that you're seeing right now. You will see the question form. So please ask us anything there that might arise during the program. So here in the studio, the safety for the crew and the participants is a priority for us. And as much as we would have loved to feature all the participants here in the studio, we couldn't do that. So we went for the second best option, being that we made some of the materials for this afternoon in advance. So you will see some of that. Our theme this year is navigating the unknown and taking leaps of faith in doing so. And the past year, we had to rethink the way we live our lives, perhaps both professionally and personally, and adapt to unknown circumstances. So the program for this afternoon will focus on what we have learned from that and how we can use that knowledge when moving forward. So to kick off this afternoon, we will start with a performance with SSE's very own Friedmans Apostlar choir. So enjoy their take on Seasons of Love.
Measure
So, thank you very much for that, Friedmans Apostlar. You will be back later in the program. So glad to see you in the aula, and also with this setting makes me feel just at home. But glad that okay, let me start over. Thank you very much, Friedmans Apostlar. So glad to see you, and you will be back later in the program. And seeing you in the aula and also with this setting makes me feel just at home. I'm just glad that there's no math involved in the aula this time. Also glad to see that you're very active in the chat, seeing that you're ranging from Harare to Tokyo to Munich. I think the earliest graduates that we have, alumni, was even a married couple here from 1968 and 1971. Glad to see that. For your first special update, we have SSE President Lars Strannegård, who will share some insights in how SSE has navigated this past year.
You are all warmly welcome to Homecoming 2021, the digital edition, and I am happy and thrilled that so many of you are joining us. It would have been wonderful, of course, to be able to invite you back home to your or to our school and give you the opportunity to meet up with your fellow alumni. SSE is, as you know, a place for meetings, for conversations, and for discussions in three-dimensional form, but given the circumstances, we hope to inspire you nonetheless in this digital version of Homecoming. Many of us have swiftly moved a huge part of our daily work life online, and I am immensely proud of the level of quality we've been able to uphold this past year here at SSE. And I hope the program today will be a testament to our efforts and that you will be entertained, interested, and hopefully get some food for thought. Ever since the pandemic broke out in 2020, teaching at SSE has been a combination of either sitting at home with your computer or coming to SSE. So it's been a hybrid form of teaching, going back and forth between the school, sitting at the school and sitting somewhere else. When this all started, it made us really ponder on what an education program at SSE is basically all about. And we came up that it's all about 5 C's. The first C stands for content, the actual content of an education program. That means what's in the course material, what's in the lectures, etc. And the fact is that all that can be transformed quite well through digital means. For instance, sitting with your iPad back in your couch, scrolling back and forth in order to trying to understand what the lecturer said. So the C, standing for content, really works well digitally. But education also provides contextualizations of that knowledge. Basically, things that, for instance, happen when you do case teaching, where the experiences of other fellow students matter a lot, and where it's actually possible to put the knowledge pieces into some kind of context. That's possible to do digitally, but it works better if you do it together with others in real life, in three-dimensional form. Then we have the third C that stands for contacts. I guess you all know exactly what I'm talking about, because that's what happens at SSE. You meet friends, you meet people who you can interact with throughout your life. And the fact is that the contacts that you make during your time here at SSE is something that's very, very hard to do online. And without contacts, SSE is basically not at all the same place. And then the fourth stands for community. And basically, that is what SSE is all about. It's a place that really brings people together, brings students together. It also brings alumni together, corporate partners, faculty members, etc. It's a place where people meet. It's a place that really creates a community, that emotional connection you have. That's basically impossible to create the same type of community if you don't meet and interact physically. Of course it's possible to make communities of different kinds, as we all know it's possible to do digitally. But doing it at SSE requires physical meeting. And then the fifth and final C stands for confidence. And that's something that you develop in interaction with others. It's for a young person to understand that they are taken seriously, when they are listened to, what type of body language that actually matters. It's a way of developing yourself. So basically gaining confidence is something that you need to be able to look people in the physical eye in order to do. So these 5 C's together, when we put that as sort of something we can analyze all our education programs with, we realize that SSE is a combination of all these 5 C's. Some of them are possible to do really, really well digitally, and others we need the physical form. But by analyzing our operations this way, we know also how to improve ourselves digitally and also how to improve the physical environments. So the 5 C's have actually been guiding us and been making it much more possible for us to increase the quality of all our education programs. Our role as a higher education institution is of course much greater than the handling and the implications of the pandemic. Over the past years, the Stockholm School of Economics is dedicated to being as relevant as possible. And our relevance is strongly tied to the fact that our world is much more complex and unpredictable than it used to be. Our daily life is becoming more digital by the hour. We're facing immense global challenges, and we need to use our judgment and try to make the right decisions in an ever-changing reality. And this is not easy, because we all want to reduce the detrimental impact on our planet in parallel to creating economic growth. We need to secure full employment while maintaining equality. Our needs and goals may seem contradictory at a first glance, but even if they aren't, our world is more complex and more demanding as more stakeholders are making their much-needed voices heard. And to use the words of philosopher Hedenius, we need to be free and at ease in an unknown world. And that is why we formulated our educational mission a few years back that we call FREE. And I've talked about our educational mission to many of you before, and this is one of the more important pillars of SSE's way forward. In order to be sustainable, we need to educate students who are free and at ease in the unknown world. A free individual is one who has a fact and science-based mindset, who is reflective and self-aware, empathetic and culturally literate, and able to find creative solutions to whatever situations that present themselves. Apart from our educational goals, SSE as a research institution has a responsibility to provide research and science-based facts, models and context to the business community and society at large. This responsibility is even greater through difficult times. And as soon as the pandemic hit the world, we gathered researchers from all research areas connected to SSE to provide findings and insights and models and conclusions tied to this great shift. The project is an ongoing effort where 80 researchers have provided over 40 articles on Sweden's approach to COVID-19 and how to navigate the challenges caused by the pandemic. Our associate professor, Martin Carlsson-Wall, will give a keynote on important insights from this huge topic in just a little while. But even if the pandemic is affecting us all, everything is not about the pandemic. And this homecoming is for our alumni, for you, and what we are able to give back to you through your great support. So this is our way of celebrating this extraordinary network of over 20,000 alumni from Stockholm School of Economics, and saying thank you for being part of this fantastic community. And this year, I would like to send a special thanks to all of you who supported this year's annual fundraising campaign that's been extraordinarily successful, with the most participants in any fundraising campaign at SSE so far. So thank you ever so much. And with that, I think it's time to kick off the program for today.
Thank you, Lars, for your valuable reflections. Up next, I'm happy to welcome to the stage our first keynote speaker for this afternoon, Martin Carlsson-Wall, who is a SSE Associate Professor and also Project Manager for the research report Sweden Through the Crisis. Welcome, Martin.
Well, glad to be here, and I should start by saying I think it's fantastic to see the chat and really see all over the world where you're joining in. My name is Martin Carlsson-Wall. I started SSE in 1998, so my student number is 18184, and it's fantastic to see the SSE family joining in here today. At SSE, I do two things. One is I'm involved in accounting and finance, sort of the brain part, and the other part, showing a little bit what Lars talked about, the importance of being entrepreneurial. I have, together with colleagues, created the Center for Sports and Business. And except, as you see here, the Sweden Through the Crisis report is about having ambitions, and it provides, I think, hope, because it's about bouncing back better after COVID-19. And one thing that I'm part of thinking about to bounce back better is actually to combine SSE's research capabilities within private equity and sports to create a global course, a digital course on private equity and global sports. I want to start with this picture. As you can see, it's not March 2021, it's March 2020. And it's the first pages of Dagens Industri. And, you know, up to the right corner here, we have Kerstin Hessius. We need to get out of the panic. And at that time, I think, at least I felt, you know, this could be a crisis that I have not been part of before. And as we see here throughout these first pages, it's everything about the collapse of the stock market, it's about crisis packages, and it's about how do we move forward. At that time, a friend of mine said, what can SSE as a collective do? Why isn't SSE doing jointly as a team? And I thought that was a great saying. That was the starting point 1 year ago, where we said, as a complement to all the seminars, debate articles, and individual research projects, we should come together as one team, as one school. And that's what we did with this project. And the project, as Lars said, really highlights. It's over 600 pages now, over 40 articles, and it involves almost half of the SSE faculty. So in that sense, being here at SSE for more than 20 years, I have not been part of such a cross-disciplinary project. And that I want to thank all my colleagues for taking the time to really join in what I think is a buffet of fantastic articles. And you see there on the picture, but I think actually here is the book. It weighs almost 1 kilo. And normally we don't really talk about the material things in academia, but sometimes you are quite proud of when teamwork pays off. So for those of you who are interested in getting a copy, just look me up on LinkedIn, and I promise you the first 10 that add me, I'll send a personal copy to you. Otherwise, as you can see here at the bottom, you just go into the website and all the articles are there, free to download. And we're also proud to be able to say that both media and the Swedish Educational Corporation, Utbildningsradion, have done a number of films that you can watch. So what do we then see in the report? What is being discussed? Well, it's 8 themes. Some themes are totally, you know, the ordinary SSE themes, like finance and accounting, retail and markets, innovation and change, and sustainability. also leadership, of course. Then we have what I think is a unique starting point with the Swedish model, and having several researchers, both from economics to business administration, talking about what does it mean with this quite unusual way of handling a pandemic, the Swedish model. And then, as you can see at the end here, the future of education. What it's going to look like. How much is going to be digital, how much is going to be, let's get back to the aula. And on that note, I should say, even though I love to teach in the aula, so it would have been great to have you all 300 in the aula, actually, for homecoming. But think of it. Today, around the world, you're more than 2 aulas. And I think that is one thing to really build on, to bounce back better. 3 themes are the key components here. And the first one is, if we think about bounce back better, or as Joe Biden likes to call it, build back better. As a business school, we need to think about what are the requirements for leading, organizing, and financing. And in the individual sections or themes here, you can read about specific issues. One, I think, unusual thing is in the society part. We have a very interesting chapter from the Church of Sweden. You know, a business school talking about the Church of Sweden and how agile the Church of Sweden has been. To me, that's unique and something very interesting. A second part is what we all feel, I think, have experienced with the home office. These blurred boundaries and now various forms of hybrids. On the one hand, the home office have, and I should say several of the chapters in leadership and organization talk about the home office and what it has done to us. In many ways, it has created new opportunities for how we want to work and how we want to interact. Also, if we move from the individual level, we see blurred boundaries that in the development of a new vaccine, it's not only companies working. They need to work with academia, they need to work with non-for-profit and public organizations. So we see blurred boundaries on an organizational level. And then obviously on a society level, these historical, we could say 3 sectors of the private sector, public sector, and civil society sector are somewhat, we need what we call new ways of thinking, new identities and hybrid organizations. At the same time, and I think this is important to notice here, we need potentially boundary management. Because, you know, I don't know about you, but I have 1 mobile phone. Many politicians nowadays have 2 mobile phones because they don't want to be disturbed all the time. They want to ensure that they have time to really be with their families and get energy back. That's why I think, very interestingly, boundary management could be one of the most strategic issues moving forward. When do we do professional work and when do we do personal work? And along those lines, we see that many of our researchers are concerned about stress. They're concerned about rhythms that constantly keeps changing. And they're concerned about genuine uncertainty. And I think you will see throughout this day, navigating the unknown is on the one hand a challenge, but it also poses, I think, great opportunities. And when I'm the program director of the master program in accounting, valuation, and financial management, when I talk to my students, I basically ask them one question. How do you view COVID-19 or Corona? And what I would like them to say is, oh, it's the greatest of opportunities. Because now a lot of things are being freed up. I mean, now are the things when we really can move past our competitors, work together with competitors, and really do new things. The idea of being free and alive in relation to the unknown is, on the one hand, I think personally, to sort of accept that it's scary and that you are vulnerable. At the same time, it provides opportunities to bounce back better. And as a final thing, I want to say that if this was 2020 year's book, in 2021, we're moving forward with what we call Together Beyond the Crisis. And what I want to see now in the chat here is people coming up with initiatives or, connecting with me or other faculty members, because we want to do things together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Martin. And as Martin said, we will have a panel discussion later. So if you have any questions to Martin or our other keynote speaker, please let us know. But let me follow up with a question to you, Martin. You're talking about bouncing back better, and for me that sounds like you need to have more of a long-sighted perspective in your organization or in your business. How can you actually handle that? Most people now, when COVID hit us, were just trying to fix, what was just in front of your nose. How should you do that in practice?
I think what we're seeing, first one should acknowledge that it's different between different individuals and between different industries. I think one of the most fascinating things I've been to really see, some industries has hardly been struck, while other industries where, personal distance, like hospitality, sports that I work in, have been severely hit. Still, one of the key issues is to dare to not choose short-term or long-term, but really work with multiple time horizons in a little bit more systematic way, so that you ensure that you have a little bit of almost portfolio perspective. What are you doing short term? What are you doing medium term? What are you doing long term? And how do you prioritize so you get the whole package together?
So it will be a difficult balance, probably, for most of us.
Very much so, but I would say this is where the opportunities is. This is where we need to think about bounce back better.
Okay, let's get deeper into it later in the panel discussion.
Yeah.
Now we'll have another performance for you by Loise Hedberg and Jonathan Olsson, members of the SSE Music Society. So refill your coffee cups, your wine glasses, or whatever you're having, and enjoy their instrumental version of A Sky Full of Stars. Thank you so much, Loise and Jonathan, for that. And thank you also for being very active in the chat. So glad to see old friends reuniting. So keep shouting out to each other and stay tuned for more pop quiz questions. So to bring us to another special update, we have Julia Delin from SSE Business Lab, a former classmate of mine. So I'm very glad to see you, Julia. Julia will share some news about the Business Lab programs and what they have been up to the past year.
Hi everyone, I hope that you're having a great time so far. My name is Julia Delin and I am the CEO of the SSE Business Lab, which is the venture incubator of the Stockholm School of Economics. And just like the school that we belong to, we also have a mission in strengthening Sweden's competitiveness, but we do so by providing a platform for growth to exceptional entrepreneurs. And that means every startup who applies to us have a chance to go from initial idea and inspiration to scaling internationally. And we do this through 3 different programs and a network for alumni who have graduated from the Incubate program. Activate and Incubate are our 2 venture building programs, which means that we require an idea and a team to get support. And Ideate is for students who are passionate about addressing global challenges through entrepreneurship. In the program, students get the opportunity to build a team and an idea instead. The goal of this program is to raise awareness around entrepreneurship as a potential career path, as well as teaching them to build diverse teams and be fueled into action. We have designed this program to really make sure that students get all the foundational knowledge and competence they need to develop any new ideas, be it in a startup or in an established company, as well as building teams that really fuel innovation. And we wouldn't be able to do this without a great support from people who really make a difference. Among our guest speakers, we have the founder of Kry, the founder of Voi Technology, the chair and the CEO of Acne Studios, as well as an investment manager from Kiandum. And beyond that, we will host workshops on topics such as problem solution fit, creating a minimum viable product, and creating a pitch deck. Looking back at this past year, what many of us saw as a challenge, entrepreneurs saw as an opportunity. We had a record of applications in May, and during the entire year, we've met with 75 new ideas. And all of these teams are taking advantage of opportunities such as the rise in e-commerce purchases, the need of support in well-being and mental health, as well as many newfound interest in hiking. And we admitted 26 of these startups to our programs, which is a record to admit in one entire year since 19 years back. And we've also never seen such diversity among the teams. 58% of the teams have at least 1 male and 1 female co-founder, which is almost 3 times as much compared to 2 years back. And of course, we believe this is great. A mix of gender usually also means a mix of perspectives, which is key in making sure that innovative organizations grow. And surely these organizations have grown. Both startups in the program and those who have graduated have broken both records and glass ceilings. And I mean, this really shows that the support that we provide for students and alumni in creating their own job opportunities is crucial for creating a long-lasting impact in society. During the year, we've also signed 4 partners to our new partner program, who are generously dedicating time and resources to support our startups. And this means that we get the possibility to even further develop our offer to them. And as you can hear, even though we're turning 20 years 2021, we are just getting started. We recently announced that we're adding some new faces to our board of admissions, including legendary banker Sven Hagströmer, our queen of design Lisa Lindström, and investor and entrepreneur Mattias Miksche. And this board will be responsible for looking at all of the pitches of startups applying and making sure the right ones get a spot. And me, I'll be working on making sure that once these startups are admitted to the program, they have all the resources that they need to succeed. And if you want to help me fuel these startups, you're more than welcome to reach out to be a coach, a mentor, or potentially an investor. And I'm excited to talk to you more about the opportunities ahead of us. To give you a sneak peek of these startups, you will see some of them pitching today. Please enjoy watching Lägereld, Färsking, and the Ode To pitch.
Thank you, Julia, for your presentation and for the great work you're doing. So let's move on straight to the Business Lab company pitches. We have 2 companies here with us in the studio. We were planning on having 3, but the company Färsking unfortunately couldn't make it. But joining me from Lägereld, I'm happy to introduce Staffan Stenerud.
Thank you. In 2016, I told my friend Martin about an idea I had been thinking about, and he really liked it. We started to spend weekends and evenings fine-tuning the idea and dreaming about how we can improve mental health in the society. And during this process, we also shared our own mental challenges and struggles, and it became like therapy for us. It became our own Lägereld. And for us, Lägereld is a warm, open, and non-judging place that inspires you to speak what's on your mind. Digging into the problem area, we realized it's bigger than we thought and it's growing. It's actually the #1 reason for sick leave in Sweden today, up over 80% during the last 5 years, causing a lot of pain and suffering for individuals and cost for the society. Therefore, we founded Lägereld. And Lägereld is a personal and professional platform that inspires you to take your first steps on a mental health journey. Lägereld offers video calls with psychologists, and we're also building a mental health community. We engage the users on our platform by providing movies, articles, and podcasts that we co-create together with the psychologists. And we recently also launched Shinrin-yoku, or forest therapy. And this model seemed to work. Me and Martin, we bootstrapped the company. We had been without salary for 2 years. But finally, during 2020, things started to take off. We were growing with 20% per month, and the future looked bright. Until November, when the reimbursement system changed completely, and it hit us hard. The business model that we had been building up crashed, and it felt like someone turned off the light. We were lost. We didn't know where to go or where to move. But then something happened. We asked ourselves, why did we start Lägereld in the first place? And we knew the answer right away. It was not to chase video calls, a metric that were just turning us into our competitors. It was all about the founding principles of the brand, the closeness to nature and the inspiration to bring to people to join their own wellness journey. We started to talk to people around us, and we got good confidence and support. For example, from Anna-Karin Skoglund, one of 20 amazing psychologists at Lägereld, who said, "I joined Lägereld because of the inspiring feeling and connection to nature. We will overcome this together." We also reached out to participants of the forest therapy program, which at this point was only a pilot project. And one participant said, "I was so tired and depressed I could barely get out of home, but I'm so glad I did. I feel so different now. Thank you to the forest, the group, and our amazing guide, Petra." And this stuff really made things positive for us, and it slowly felt like the light was coming back. And today, I'm proud to say that we are back on a different track that feels brighter than ever and more in line with our long-term vision. We will soon launch a more scalable format of Shinrin-yoku in a digital setting. And we're also launching a business-to-business offering to help companies deal with these issues in a proactive manner. And I would like to close with a quote from our first corporate client, Sophie Romero, who said, "You're absolutely on the right track. What you do at Lägereld is really the future." Please reach out if you want to join the journey ahead, because it has just started.
Thank you very much, Staffan. So up next, I would like to welcome Helena Karlberg from the Ode To. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I am one of 2 co-founders of the Ode To, which is an online art gallery. We've seen that there's a new digital generation that loves art and want to be part of the art scene, but find it very, very much intimidating with the traditional art galleries that are more stiff and, let's be honest, quite expensive. At the same time, there are lots of great emerging artists that are struggling to reach an audience, and they are also really good at doing art, but not as good as at doing business. So for them, we are an effortless and accessible platform where you can find affordable art, and we connect people with artists, and we're that gap between mass production and the more expensive art galleries. What we do is that we scout the best emerging artists, handpick each handmade artwork, and put it in a very inspiring context. Our goal is to become the leading online platform for affordable art. We're targeting both the art industry and the interior design industry, which both of them are growing massively at the moment. The competition is quite fragmented, and the art galleries themselves seem to think that you can't sell art online, and we have proven that to be wrong. So there's a great space to claim to be a more contemporary and digital way of selling art, which has been around since forever. I couldn't do this without my friend and co-partner Anna Lukins. We have a rare combination of skills, so we both have business, creative and art experience. Anna has worked as a talent agent, and I was hired by the H&M Group to found And Other Stories, and we're taking that experience into the art scene. We launched in 2018, and so far the brand traction has been exceptional. Sometimes it feels like we can't really even meet all this demand from customers. So we're just making sure that we have enough art to sell all the time, which is a great feeling. We've really gotten proof of concept, and things took off greatly last year. So we sold for 1.6 million SEK last year, and that is an increase of 136%. This year has been even better so far. So by today, we have sold more than we did the first 8 months last year. We reach most of our people or customers through social media and have lots of followers there. The beauty is also that we have a really nice unit margin, and we sell everything on commission. So there's not the usual risk of e-com. We've managed this by just being 2 people, Anna and me, and having bootstrapping all the way up until today. We recently just closed a 3.3 million capital round, which is fantastic and gave us a real confidence boost. So now we're at that stage where we can really grow and scale our business. So we're recruiting a team, we're increasing the marketing, and we're expanding to new markets. And it also feels great to have so esteemed and interesting people behind us. Most of them are actually SSE alumni from lots of different years. So we have people like Anna Storåkers and Peggy Bruselius, Susanna Campbell and Micke Storåkers. So it's an exciting time to come, and perhaps maybe some of our future investors are even listening as we speak. In the meantime, we hope that you find some handmade and beautiful and interesting art at theode2.com.
Thank you very much, Helena. While spending a lot of time at home, it could definitely be a good idea to check out the Ode To. At least I will. So thank you very much for a good presentation. So up next is SSE professor and contributor to the Sweden Through the Crisis report, Roberto Verganti. He will be our next keynote speaker. So I say welcome, Roberto.
Good afternoon. On March 9 last year in 2020, I was in Sweden, and I'm Italian by origin. My children are living in Italy, and suddenly, slowly, Italy started to realize that something very bad was happening in the country. My children live in a city called Brescia. Brescia is a town of 200,000 people, next to Bergamo, which probably you have been hearing about last year. It was the place in the world where there was the highest rate of contagion during COVID, and also, unfortunately, the highest rate of death. Two of my children had symptoms of COVID, so I had to decide whether to go back to Italy and stay with them, or stay in Sweden and hopefully be safe. Of course, eventually I decided to go back. So on March 13th, I took the last flight back to Italy, only 5 people on board. And it was the last flight that landed at 10 before the country locked down for 3 months, completely. It was a touching experience landing with the army waiting for us, everything dark. And for the next 3 months, listening to ambulances and stories of friends and people who was in trouble in the hospitals. And of course, as a human and as a professor, I started to wonder what's next. And that was the question also of my colleagues and my friend, what's next? And I suppose that everyone has a similar story. Everyone has been asking the same question, what's next? And in business, usually there are transitions, there are new phenomena, new technology that emerge, artificial intelligence. And some of these changes touch some industry, some of these changes touch some people, but COVID has been touching everyone in their personal and professional life. So every one of us has this question, what's next? And this is not an easy question. I mean, what's next is a question that we always ask ourselves, but this time is different. And why is different? Because the transition that we are coming through, it is a completely different nature. I mean, what you see here are the number of jobless claims in the US last year, 2020, in March. And you see that per week, the number of jobless claims was 10 times more than what happened during the financial crisis of 2008. So we are in a situation of a transition that is relevant, humongous, rapid, something that never happened before. So the question, what's next, is not just an usual question, it's the question that each one of us is asking. And what do we do in front of this question? I mean, I teach leadership and innovation here at SSE. You are a leader, and you have a key role in society. And when we have a question like this in front of us, we tap on our frame, our theories, our model, our mental attitude, our mindset. And what do we have? It's a kind of leadership that we inherited from the past. And this leadership in front of the question, what's next, typically have 3 kinds of mindset, 3 kinds of attitude. First of all, okay, what should we do? Let's try to forecast what's next. Let's try to forecast the future. And then we see some problem there, and we try to address those problems. We try to solve them. How? What is the performance parameter we try to adopt. It's, you know what, we're winner if we are smarter than the competition. We try to outsmart the competition, to win competition, because we solve those problems better. Well, what I will try to say to you now is that that kind of leadership doesn't really work in this context. And just to make a simple example, does it work to forecast the future in this context? Well, this is a question that I would like to ask you, that you can see here. And it's a very simple test. Imagine it's March 2020, okay, 1 year ago, March 2020. We are there is this big scenario, and we want to predict which good will have the greatest decrease in spending, okay? So which product will have a faster, more dramatic decrease in spending in families? So 4 possibilities: discount department stores, luxury department stores, toys, or sporting goods. You have a chat, you can try to answer there. This is a poll, and let's see how do you come out with this. Okay, and I cannot see in this moment what are the results of the poll. But I suppose, and I wouldn't be surprised, that, okay, let me see, sporting goods, there, you should answer there. I see that you see 4 possible options. Let me see if I can see some of the answers. Okay, number 2 is the highest one. Number 1 is the highest one. Number 2 is the highest one. Okay, number 2 is the highest. So luxury department stores, those ones who should have had the greater decrease in spending. Okay, I see that now. Oh, fantastic. Yes, luxury department stores. Well, in reality, it's exactly the opposite. Luxury goods are not those who have been suffering most. Actually, are those who have been suffering less. Those who have been suffering most is discount department stores. And then we have sporting goods, then toys, and then discount department store. This is just to say an example that I used to say, forecasting in this context is very complicated. So what is the option that we have in this case? The only thing that we can do is, no one knows how the future will look like. But what we can do is that we simply have to switch our mindset. And instead of trying to forecast, solve problems, and outsmart competition, the kind of mindset that we have and we need is what I call design-driven leadership. Why design-driven? First of all, because instead of trying to forecast the future, this is the moment to design the future that we wish for. This is a moment of dramatic change, but it's also a moment in which everything gets unfrozen. So instead of trying to forecast, to predict, to project a future from the past, what we can do, this is the moment to design the scenario we always longed for. It's a great opportunity, because things now are still stuck, of course, we are still in our lockdown, but as soon as the moment as things will open up, that's the moment in which things are fluid and we can really mold the future we like. So we need the design mindset, not the forecast mindset. Second, we don't need to make things better or to solve problems, because the problem comes from the past. Let's leave the problem of the past away, because otherwise we are solving the past, we are not creating the future. And to create a future, we need to search for meaning, not just to solve problems. We need to search for opportunities. I just have an example to explain what I mean. I took here just that finally we do something physical, so we can use physical things. So this is a package, and a classic attitude to our packages is that, okay, we want to recycle these things. So we try to create new paper that can be recycled better. So this is a problem, and this is a problem from the past. And we can try to solve it better and have paper that is, more recyclable or whatever. But in reality, what does it mean to change meaning? What you see here, okay, is a furoshiki. A furoshiki is a Japanese old piece of fabric, it's a cloth, that in Japan it was used to package a thing and give gift to your friends. Okay? Why I use this? Because this is not something that you recycle. It's something that totally changed the meaning of what does it mean to wrap things and objects into a package. So instead of making a package that you can recycle better, you completely change the future and you create something that in this case is so precious that people don't even want to throw it away. You keep it for yourself. So this is how an old culture created meaning, not because they wanted to solve a problem of the past, but because they want to create something that is so beautiful that you will keep it with yourself. And I don't know if you can see it here, or here, or here, everything. Here it is. Okay, fantastic. These are fantastic pieces of silk. And every business can do the same. I think in this moment, one of the most popular website of teenagers and Gen Z is called Depop. And Depop, for example, is all about the idea that you create your business from your bedroom, so you don't need to throw things away. Actually, all the things you have, you can resell it. The last thing that we can do is what we call shared learning. Instead of outsmarting competition, and we have been talking a lot about disruption in the last few years, who wants to be a disruptor nowadays? Do we really need disruptors in a world that is next to the collapse? We don't need disruptors. We don't want to have people disrupt the competition. We want people who think about business like something that we do together, what I call shared learning, because the only way to do things better in this moment is to share information, share data with the others. We need leaders who are catalysts, who don't try to look to having a larger share of the pie, but we need leaders who create a larger pie. And I believe that us at SSE have this potential because of free, what you heard before from Lars Strannegård, especially because this free capability is a capability to be reflective and work together. And we are creating this moment at the Stockholm School of Economics a new program, a new leadership program that we will call Design-Driven Leadership. And we will create it, it's quite unique. We'll have very limited seats in which we want to rewrite the manifesto leadership that is the manifesto leadership that we want in this new world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Roberto. I would definitely like to have all of my online shopping shipped to me in a silk cloth instead of this packaging. So I would just like to have a follow-up question. So what I hear that you're saying is that everything will change. And for me, I think that I've heard that kind of on repeat during the last couple of months, that everything will change. We won't go back to the what we used to know. But for me, it sounds like that's just an easy thing to say when we're in the middle of a crisis and a pandemic. Is everything really changing? Isn't that just some kind of hype? How do you view it?
No, it's a very good point. Of course, not everything will change. But we don't know what will change and what will not change. So in our mindset, the right question is not that everything will change, but everything may change. So we need to be in that kind of mindset because we don't know what will stay the same, what will change.
Interesting. So we will get back to Roberto later on in the panel discussion together with Martin. But for now, I would like to introduce Friedmans Apostlar again. I saw earlier in the chat that one of the founders of Friedmans Apostlar is actually with us. So I hope that you enjoy this especially. So Friedmans Apostlar will perform a song by Sweden's favorite pop group, ABBA.
I've been cheated by you since I don't know when. So I've made up my mind, it must come to an end. Look at me now, will I ever learn? I don't know how, but I suddenly lose control. There's a fire within my soul. Just one look and I can hear a bell ring. One more look and I forget everything. Whoa, mamma mia, here I go again. My mind, how can I resist you? Mamma mia, does it show again? My mind, just how much I missed you. Ooh, yes, I've been broken hearted. Blue since the day we parted. Why did I ever you go. La 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 la, la 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 la. I've been angry and sad about things that you do. I can't count all the times that I told you we're through. And when you go, when you slam the door, I think you know that you won't be away too long. You know that I'm not that strong. Just one look and I can hear a bell ring. One more look and I forget everything. Whoa, mamma mia, here I go again. My, how can I resist you? Mamma mia, does it show again? My, just how much I missed you. Yes, I've been broken hearted. Blue since the day we parted. Why did I ever let you go? Mamma mia, now I really know. My, I can never let you go. Mamma mia.
Thank you, Friedmans Apostlar, for coming to us in such an innovative way. And thank you both for your presentations. So my plan is that we delve a bit deeper into the topics that you have brought up, the theme of collaboration and the theme of bouncing back better, as you put it. So I thought that we start with the bouncing back better. And I think part of it, if I understood you right, is to aim a bit higher when going forward. So can you give some advice to leaders listening to this? How are you actually supposed to do that? I think everyone is, many of us are stuck in operations, So, and you were talking a bit about doing both before. But how? Can you give some kind of practical advice?
I think one key thing is to dare to sort of go to new territories. There is one chapter or article in the book written by my colleague Emma Stenström that talks about bubble hopping. So we're in these bubbles normally. I am normally in the SSE bubble, but we need to sort of jump outside your own bubbles. So I think that would be my advice number one. Ensure that you end up in places where you normally are not, because then you get new perspectives. The second part is very much about how can we align the individual perspective with the organizational perspective and the society perspective. Because we should really be aware of, in the line with collaboration, that this is difficult things. It's easy to say, difficult to do. So that's why I think the more we can find opportunities where incentives on an individual level, organizational level, and society sort of go together, that's where we should start when it comes to bounce back better.
Yeah, and what happens if they don't go together? What do you see is the risk there?
Obviously, there is a risk that, on the positive side, I think there's very interesting research that has talked about what we call productive friction. So sometimes it could actually be that alignment is not really perfect because it helps us to reflect, it helps us to negotiate and come forward with better alternatives. But obviously, when it's not aligned, just in terms of expectations management, you need to be aware of that a little bit.
There was a thing I wanted to connect. That sometimes language matters, or it helps to be creative. And you say bouncing back better or higher. Yeah. And I was thinking instead, and just to reframe a little bit, you say bouncing forward instead of back. And not better or higher, but as you say, on a different, more meaningful place. Because if we say back better or higher, basically we jump on the same, we do the same sport. You are into sport. Yeah. We do the same sport, but we want to jump high. Instead, what we need to do in this moment is to change sport. So really try to reinvent the word with new rules.
Sounds hard, but I understand. Okay, so
But we are SSE, so we need to
you're
do it.
SSE, so you need to actually.
SSE is
and I
hard.
actually think,
high
you know, for everyone in the audience, when researchers sort of identify new concepts, you should be a little bit, you know, critical. Obviously, Bounce Back Better was a way to, at this time when we wrote the book, and I should say for everyone that has hooked me up on LinkedIn, I'll try to get a copy to all of you. So thank you very much for that. It was at that time to sort of say, these researchers are really thinking about hope, and that's what we like. And that's why Bounce Back Better became the theme in this particular book.
And speaking of hope, you're also proposing very hopeful initiatives on collaboration. Yeah. But as when I went to SSE, and that wasn't that many years ago, we're still talking about competition. And if someone tried to, you know, sneak peek on your data, you would say, let's go to court. You can't look at my data. So how do you see that we could actually make this mind shift, going from a competitive, you know, way of thinking into a collaborative? What does it take for us to transition?
It's of course not easy, but really we need, as I said before, we need to look at the pie instead of looking at the share. No one say that you make better profit by having a larger share if the pie is small. This is a moment in which if we don't collaborate, the pie remains really small, because the only way to make the market restart and grow faster is that we collaborate. We need to share learning, because this is a totally new scenario. So the point is this one, and it is still about competition. I mean, imagine that there are 10 organizations that collaborate, so they learn faster and they slowly take a part of the total cake that is larger. And you're alone, you're the only one who doesn't cooperate. Then it's a little bit of trouble. So we are not alone. In a world in which everyone compete, is still fine. But imagine a world in which someone starts to cooperate, then if you don't, it's a big trouble.
How exciting.
I could also add, I think it's important to highlight that it doesn't need to be either or fully. So we're not going from a world of full competition to a world of full collaboration. I mean, if you have a lot of collaboration, but people don't dare to be devil's advocate, then you have groupthink, and that's not what we want. The whole idea is just to say, on an overall level, we want to sort of, like a big ferry, you know, change the direction a little bit. But we still need both competition and collaboration in tandem. And I think that's where interesting things will happen.
That's a very good point. So in the article that I wrote, what the point I make is collaboration on the learning, competition on the ideas. Then that we share information, we share data, and then everyone goes, because otherwise if everyone does the same, there is no growth. So we need to differentiate and different ideas and competition on ideas by sharing information and learning. Otherwise everyone restart from scratch.
But how can this then take place in reality? Because I see it's easy for us to talk about, now we're trying to fight COVID-19 and we all have this big mission that's in front of us, and it's easy to see that we can collaborate around that. But in industries where I see that competition is already fierce, everyone is just fighting to survive. I'm thinking about retail, for example, where, you know, the margins are just like shrinking and shrinking. How do you see that collaboration can actually take place in
I mean, I think there are very interesting research that is done in terms of crisis, and it talks about the importance of making sense of this new situation. And there, a lot of people say the most difficult and what you need to ensure is to have at least one other individual that helps you to make sense of things. So the starting point, if you are, let's say, it was the tsunami, for example, in Thailand, was those that really did really well there. What they did was, the first thing, they found one comrade. And with that partner, they sort of made sense what has happened. And from that, you sort of go to your most basic needs, you know, water, try to move yourself a little bit. And then collectively, we sort of take it step by step. So I think that is a sort of a bubble hopping with a colleague, and just on a very concrete way.
Yeah.
I don't know. Read the book together with a colleague.
I just heard you saying that
discuss the
retail
chapters, you know?
are in the same situation as the tsunami was. I hope that I hope that it's not. But what type of skills do you see that it requires?
Skills, I mean, and here I think we come closer to our community. Collaboration especially requires, the most important thing which people don't think about is collaboration requires self-criticism, because the best way to leverage on the power of being next to another person is that you question yourself. Is in the moment in which the other person says something different. Because if he says the same, there's no collaboration. I mean, I already knew that. Collaboration happens when that person says something different, and you're ready to, hold on a second. Instead of judging what is right and what is wrong, you start to re-elaborate, self-criticize yourself, bring things together, integrate. And that kind of mindset, hopefully, I think that SSE has been nurturing in this vision of free. Well, the R stands for reflective. And it's our role as leader to nurture that kind of self-reflective capability, which is, by the way, I come from Italy, is typically Scandinavian. You can't find that kind of depth in other parts of the world.
So when we discussed earlier, you mentioned that SSE is well positioned to be a catalyst and to be a center around which these collaborations can take place. So can you give some advice to people listening? How can you use your SSE network? How can you use the resources that there are at SSE to leverage this collaboration?
In our case, it's very, very practical. As I anticipated, we are building a new program for leadership based on design-driven leadership. It will be very limited, very, very small. We have very few seats by invitation. But if someone is interested, what we will do, we will co-create it together by cooperating. So just contact me and through my address at the school, and wherever I want to be a catalyst of change in this moment on leadership and write a new manifesto, we can do it together. Very practical, email, and we can work together.
Great.
And I agree with the idea of self-criticism. I would like to add thing, which, normally is not very SSE-like. And that is playfulness and humor. Because I think we're, at the same time as you are self-critical, you need to sort of relax a little bit and say, but it needs to be fun. Otherwise, when you do research, a lot of the ideas never hit. So it needs to be fun. So I want to add that into the mix.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So a huge thank you for both of you for being here today. And I hope that all of you know that you can contact these gentlemen and their colleagues at SSE in case you want to be a team captain for the future, in case you want to be involved in their work. I certainly look forward to what's next. So speaking of what is next, the Student Association at SSE, known by all of us as SASSE, has a new board. So I wanted to enjoy this special update from the new board and then their new president, Tindra Hedlund.
Don't you have something to do? Let's go. My name is Tindra Hedlund and I'm the president of the Student Association at SSE for the years 2021 to 2022. And as you saw from the previous video, me and my board are more than ready to get to work. We have plenty of energy and lots of ambitions for the upcoming year. In example, we want to renovate the SASSE premises, Rotunda and Pub, if you remember those. They are quite in need of a touch-up, and we are so excited to get to work on that. We also want to continue working with the student health at SSE to improve this and ensure that the students are not only performing well in school, but are actually safe and sound as well. In addition to this, we hopefully will be able to host events throughout the year, and if not in person, we will have to be creative and come up with safe solutions, which I have no doubt will go perfectly fine as well, since the students are very ambitious, innovative and creative. So I guess that's about it for me. If you have any questions whatsoever, I'm always available at president@sasse.se. Enjoy your evening. Bye.
Tindra and the board will surely have a busy year ahead. So let's jump right into another special update, this time from Jessica O'Mary, head of the alumni department at SSE. Jessica will share what the alumni office has been working on, and it will end with a special clip from our alumni.
Hi, and welcome to this year's homecoming. My name is Jessica O'Mary, and I'm head of corporate development and alumni relations at the Stockholm School of Economics. SSE has been impacted by the pandemic like every other individual, family, organization, and company. And we've taken these challenges and tried to find the best opportunities available for our alumni community, you. So typically we would have had the opportunity to meet you throughout the year in different seminars, lectures, reunions, and other events. But during 2020, we were able to convert everything to online events, and over 1,000 alumni participated and logged in and engaged in these events, all the way from the US to Brazil to Hong Kong, and of course, many, many alumni from Stockholm. And we're really proud that you engaged with us. So the SSE mentorship program also had to adapt over the last year. Most of our alumni who volunteer to be mentors to our master's students, they used to meet in person to build and nurture those relationships and help prepare the students for the next stage in their career. But this last year they weren't able to meet in person, but they continued to build the relationships online, and we were so thankful that that continued. So despite these challenging circumstances this last year, we are so proud and thankful that you have engaged with each other through events, the mentorship program, and shown your support to SSE by making a donation. We could not do it without you. There are a lot of alumni who've stepped up and gone above and beyond this last year. But there's one in particular that we would like to highlight. He was awarded the 2020 Alumni of the Year Award, Sebastian Knutsson. We recognize Sebastian not only for his professional success, but also because of his support and involvement in the community and to the SSE Business Lab. So big congratulations to you, Sebastian. Later on in the program, you'll have the chance to hear more about the 2021 Alumni of the Year Award. So now, let's hear from some alumni and their reflections on how they navigated the unknown this last year.
Hey guys. Well, one of the biggest learnings that I've had over the last year has to be just how resilient people can be. And it's everything. It's from, adapting to a new reality where we work from home all the time, or we do everything virtually for virtual calls, or project-based, whereby, we have to firefight all the time. You have to deal with border closures and challenges you don't foresee, but also on a private front. So many of you and many of us have not seen family or friends for weeks or for months or maybe even more than a year since everything went crazy. And it really just shows how people are resilient. They adapt to a new reality. So that was a great learning.
Hello, my name is Anita Carlsson-Wall. I work for IBM and live in New York. The lesson I learned in 2020 was around diversity and inclusion. Always been top and dear topics of mine for me, also being born and raised and lived in Sweden before I moved over to the US, and learned really this year how far we still have to go, not only here in the US, but around the world. And we all know from studies that the more diverse team we have, the better outcomes do we produce as a team. So for me and my team, we are spending more time and being more mindful about how can we make sure that we are inclusive and that we are looking for diversity, both in soft and leadership and where we're coming from, to make the best outcome for IBM and our clients. Thank you.
It has been quite an unusual year, but a lesson that I've learned is to embrace the surprises of life, both good and bad, and really make the most of whatever situation you're in. It's worth remembering how resilient and fortunate we are as SSE alumni within the bigger picture.
Hello Stockholm, I'm Netini, greeting from the warm Bangkok, Thailand. A difficult year it has been, unwinding the term globalization. Yet, this highlights the fact that we are all interconnected. So I think the skills or mindset that is important to master is to align interests across different stakeholders. And we could achieve that by means of goodwill, to make sincere contribution for others, and with that could open doors opportunities to make real impact to the society we live in. This is my leap of faith. Wish you all the best. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jessica, and my fellow SSE alums. A leap of faith that I have just recently taken was to quit my kind of secure government job with Magdalena Andersson at the Ministry of Finance and jump out into the more insecure mission of starting up a PR and communications firm in the middle of the pandemic and the middle of the recession. And my mother, who just received the gold watch after 25 years with the same employer as a nurse, she has learned to trust me by now. But a couple of years ago, she would have deemed my move as a foolish one. But hopefully it will turn out to be the right one for me. Only God knows. So our alumni community is certainly unlike any other, and there is no lack of remarkable achievements in this congregation. And as Jessica mentioned, we are now accepting nominations for the SSE Alumni of the Year Award, and for the first time also the SSE Young Alumni of the Year Award. So please visit the SSE website to read more and to submit your nominations. And speaking about the website, the event site for this event will also be open for another week if you wish to revisit some parts of the program or share it with a fellow SSE alum who couldn't be here today. So thank you very much for being very active in the chat. It has been nice to be with you even though you're not here in person. And we have now reached the end of the program. On behalf of myself and SSE, we're very glad that you joined this afternoon, and we want to thank you for that. So we're so happy that you tuned into this annual event, and I hope and we hope to see you all in person as soon as it is possible. Adios and God bless.